welcome everybody. We're going to be giving a talk today on how people with disabilities access the web. Just kind of give a really general overview of some of the types of disabilities and some of the challenges that are faced. So, my name is Michael McKelvey. I work here in the Office for Mathematics, Science, Technology Education. And Hadi, if you want to introduce yourself.
And I'm Hadi Rangin, working for Disability Resources and Educational Services, abbreviated with DRES, D-R-E-S. And my primary job is to work with on-campus developers and then the vendors from whom we are purchasing products to make sure that the products are accessible, whatever it means.
We kind of already covered this. This is who we are. So today we're just going to do a really informal talk. Feel free to jump in if you have questions or have anything you want to say. If you raise your hand, I'll try to call on you, or feel free to just interject. So we're going to talk about some of the more common types of disabilities and how the people with these disabilities see and interact with the web, with websites. And then Hadi's going to do a demonstration of how a screen reader works and what a screen reader user, how they see a website. And then if you have additional questions at the end, we will be happy to try and answer those or discussion. So here are 5 of the most common types of disabilities. We have people who have visual and cognitive processing disabilities, which affects their ability to understand or interpret what's happening on a website. People with hearing impairments, typically either deaf or who have a lot of difficulty hearing. People with upper body motor impairments, so people who don't have good use of their hands, their arms, so it makes it very difficult to use a mouse or other things that most of us are accustomed to using to interact with a computer. People with low vision or color blindness, these are people who can see, but there's something different about how they can see than how the rest of us would be able to view a website or a computer or anything in general. Color blindness, I think the statistic is 1 in 10 men has some form of color blindness. So that's actually a pretty big percentage. And low vision users, they can see, but they can't see a lot. They can't see very well all at once. And then people who are blind can't see at all and need some sort of assistive technology in order to be able to actually quote unquote see a website. So people with visual and cognitive processing disabilities may or may not use special technologies. Sometimes there's just not a technology there that is going to really help, but ways that we try to make a website more accessible to them involve making the content easier to understand, clearer, not too complex, avoiding pedantic and multisyllabic words, like that sentence right there. That's difficult for a lot of people to understand, but particularly for people who have some sort of cognitive disability. Sure, go ahead.
Here at the University of Illinois, we have over, my data is not up to date, but I think until last year we had over 1,300 students with disability. Believe it or not, but more than, I think, 50 or 60% of the registered students are students with learning disability, which is a kind of cognitive disability. So a lot of these disabilities are hidden, so you don't see them. So there might be among you in the class or in your class, but so it is, they are invisible. Their disability is invisible.
Go ahead. Yeah, that would be a superpower, not a disability. Okay. Hearing impairments. The biggest thing for hearing impairments tends to be video, or specifically the audio that goes with video. So providing text transcriptions is really important. And I should say, part of what we're talking about here is, with all of these disabilities, is also the ways in which trying to address the disabilities actually helps everybody, not just the people with that disability. For example, with the cognitive disabilities, it really does help everybody to make things clearer, more concise, make it, not be a big jumble on a web page that you have to really try hard to figure out how to navigate the site and what the content means. And with people with hearing impairments, providing a text transcription really can help everybody. Say, you're in a loud area and you want to watch a video, but on your phone or something like that, but you can't really get the audio. Either you don't have headphones or you don't want to disturb other people. If you can get the text transcription of it, then even if you hear just fine, it's really going to be advantageous to everybody potentially to have that transcription. And if you want to talk just very briefly about the sign language versus text, just.
I'm really less. I'm not really an expert in hearing disability, but I'm being told that sign language is their primary way of communication. I got sometimes put myself in a trouble by saying that, but somebody said that it is not true, but it is not something really I can. I'm not expert, so I can't say very much about it, but that is what I am hearing or they tell me. With the hearing disability, and another important thing that can help everyone is the caption. So I'm pretty sure you end up watching something in a noisy environment that you couldn't hear what they were talking about. So having caption is something that not only would help people with disability, it will help also other people who happens that they are in that environment.
Some examples, I've been in airports where they're, it's a big space, they have a television, and they have the transcription going, or the captions going at the bottom, and it can be very helpful to be able to read it. You don't have to be 3 feet from the television to be able to know what's going on. Or if you've ever been to the gym and they've got a bunch of televisions up on the wall, it can be helpful to be able to read what's going on rather than have to be really close to it and be getting the audio. So those are some examples of situations in which helping people with a disability really is going to help everybody else as well. Yes.
I don't want to be pedantic about it.
Yes.
But do folks in your business make a clear distinction between transcript and closed caption or captions in the terminology?
Yeah, it is.
Transcript is a whole document.
Right.
Captions are real-time subtitles.
Right. Okay. And there's time coding that goes along with the captioning. Right.
I need to mention that this we extremely simplified the presentation today. If you are taking the course that we are offering at Illinois Online Network, this topic takes a week to discuss. So if you are interested to learn more about it, Scott, you know that where to go. It is really much more than what we are saying, that we try to simplify it just to give you an exposure with the fact that how people, different type of disabilities, what the different type of disabilities are, and how they access the information. Regarding the transcript, if it is just audio only, so we just need a transcript. And then with the video, if there is really audio, for example, a simulation, with the text, with audio that goes with that video, then you need the caption. But if it is just me talking, for 2 hours, you do not need to have a caption. You can just provide the transcript. Could I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The next disability is people with upper body motor impairments. So there's difficulty using keyboard and mouse for navigating around the website, for entering information into forms, that sort of thing. A lot of times they'll use voice recognition software in order to interact with their computer. So having good accessibility as far as navigation, I guess typically the voice recognition software is going to be much like keyboard navigation.
Correct.
In that sense, as far as moving around between elements. Whereas with a mouse, you have a two-dimensional space where you can move anywhere. If you're using a keyboard, essentially, for navigation, you really are just going through the page linearly, one thing at a time in order. And so there are, without getting into technical details, there are a lot of things you can do to try and make that make more sense and make it logical. And again, a good navigation mechanism, something consistent on each page, having the navigation bar in the same place and work in the same way across pages, across a website is extremely important for that as well. Anything else to say about?
No, I think when you emphasize that the keyboard accessibility is really important, you will see, I think, if you want really to understand that, just try to use or browse the internet for an hour with just keyboard.
Unplug your mouse.
Just unplug it, or keep it there attached, but don't cheat. Just try to use an hour for an hour, and you will see how much keyboard accessibility problem you will run into. How many? And then that is difficult. I mean, you will see a lot of objects that they are just mouse driven, and you have no other options. So, and then I think we will talk about that when we get to the blindness.
Yeah, the next couple of things, keyboard accessibility is going to be pretty important. Yes?
I was just wondering, so if maybe necessarily you have some poor coordination or whatever with your hand, you can't maybe use a mouse, would a trackpad be easier? Is there a difference or a preference for people to use different modalities?
Go ahead.
One thing that I would like to mention, that the disability is just is really a spectrum of abilities. Consider if somebody, I don't know, anyone is wearing glasses, needs glasses to read. Yeah, for example, when you are sitting at one side of the spectrum and I'm sitting on the other end of the spectrum, so everything you can find easily two people that they have similar disability and then they are affected exactly the same way. And especially with physical disability, it is very difficult. It is so different than frequently they have to go with the customized devices, keyboard that it is just made for them, or mouse devices that it is made for them, because their ability is very limited and they try to use as little as or as much as they can to use with their devices. So trackpad might be good for some people, but it might not work for other people with physical disability. Did I answer? Okay.
And I guess as for upper body motor impairments as well, I mean, there are some people who can put a device, you put it on your head, and there's a pointer at the end of it, and you touch the screen with the pointer.
Have you seen Stephen Hawking? Yeah. That is, for example, he uses, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the head pointer. So he just, I mean, he has the soft key on his on his display. He just target those characters based on the few characters that he has selected. Then some words shows up on the different side of the screen, and then he selects the word. So it could be that much, that difficult.
So, and that for somebody who's using that sort of input device, it's important to make the what we call click targets large enough. So if you have somewhere that you would normally be clicking with the mouse, but it's this really small area that you really have to have good, fine motor control to get to, I mean, that's going to be difficult for everybody.
Not me.
Right. And then it's that much more difficult for somebody who's also working with a disability. So that's part of the importance of making things big enough for things like clicking. And I mean, on my phone, I've had trouble plenty of times trying to click on the right link when there's 3 links next to each other. And you click on the wrong one, and you wait for the page to load, then you go back, then you try very carefully to click on or touch the right one. And that's an example of, if that had been designed differently, it would have been more useful to me and more useful to somebody who had a motor disability. So another example of where really we're talking about improving things for everyone. So limited vision, people with limited vision will often magnify the screen many times larger than what we would normally be viewing it as. They can use special software, or even just zooming in the browser, for example. So there are ways to design websites where, as you zoom in, the content either reflows or, disappears. So you can very easily tell if you zoom into 200 or 300%. There might be a lot of horizontal scrolling going back and forth, which you can actually kind of, if you're, again, using a smartphone, kind of mimic. If you pull it up and you have to go back and forth a lot, you're encountering pretty much the same thing. And so that's where there are ways to design websites where the content is still accessible, even if you're zoomed way in, magnifying. And again, then if you're on a phone, for example, it's a lot easier to navigate the website than having to do a lot of scrolling and try to figure out what the content really is, as things are all getting mismatched together. And then colorblind people. A lot of times information is conveyed using only color. For example, if you hover over a link and only the color changes, that can be problematic if you're colorblind and you can't distinguish between those 2 colors. And then you don't know necessarily that, for example, that's a link that you can click. Or, if you say, when somebody submits a form and there's an error, and the only way that you tell them that there's an error is you say, errors are distinguished by red text. Well, how do you, if you're colorblind, you have no idea where the error is in that form. You have no idea what you did wrong, and so you just have to start guessing. So that's no better than having no error control. All right. Okay, you want to take this one?
These are the most boring people on the earth. So, blind people, well, who are they? They still walk, talk. They just simply they don't see. I can tell you a lot of interesting story. I mean, many years ago, as I came to the United States, at Oregon State University, I was talking with somebody, and that lady was so overwhelmed that a blind person was asking for a Ethernet cable card, And then she was talking loud as if I was, last deaf. So please do not talk like a deaf. Anyway, so I don't have problem with the target link, So you can make it even 1 pixel image, I can still see that. But what a screen reader does, we use a product is called a screen reader program. So, and then, or another device is called Braille Display. So I am passing a Braille display device. It is attached to my laptop via Bluetooth. So you are allowed to touch the row where the information appears, but do not click on those buttons. It might screw up my presentation here. Okay. But here, whoever has it, you probably see this changing, right?
Yes.
So it reads, and at the same time, it changes the information, displays that in Braille. And Braille is I think Louis Braille is at least 100 years old technology, very simple. They are a series of dots. Originally, they were 6 dots. And then the combination between these dots, they represent characters. And then these dots are arranged in 2 columns, each containing 3 dots. With the invention of refreshable Braille display, like device that you had or you will be seeing, they added the dots 7 and 8 to it. And then that way we get more characters and symbols. So it is 2 to the power of 8 characters is 256 characters. It is very difficult. I mean, you read it with the tip of your finger. And then I know many blind people, not me. I mean, I became blind later in my life. I'm not good at reading. I'm not fast in reading Braille, but I know people that they significantly could read faster than many other sighted people. That I knew that. So
I'm gonna hit the up and down key a little bit as people are passing it around, so they can see it moving.
Anyway, those buttons that you will see, that these are the navigation keys. So the number of the cells on that device is very limited. It is 40 characters. So, but the screen has significantly more area. So in order to browse or scan the, I need to move away.
Sorry, I'm totally distracting you. Here, I'm gonna
in order
silence.
To move the to move on the screen, you use those buttons, the built-in buttons that you see. So it takes you, for example, at the right side, the left side, or down or up. And then, so a lot of people, they don't use it. Blind people in Europe, they are more comfortable with Braille display, because I think mainly in Europe, the European government, they provide Braille displays. But whereas in the United States, as usual, we want to be cheap, so we do not give it, and then we just use a screen reader program. That device now, I think 25 years ago, I bought my first Braille display. It was at that time, I think, something around 200,000 D-mark, which was around $10,000. So now that is more capable and much cheaper, that device costs around 4,000. So it is cheap, really cheap. Yeah, but the software that goes with it, the screen reader program, it costs something around $1,400 or $1,200, depending if you get a software maintenance agreement. Yeah, you're not here to know how about this price. Screen reader program, they linearize the content. We do not see any visual relationship that you see on the screen. So if you put something, on the layout, put the stuff next to each other or conveying some relationship, that information is not there for us. So that's why when we get later to the next slides, we will be talking about the structure. So the visual structure that you have on the screen, somehow you need to reproduce that, or initially you need to create that with a structure. Once you have a structure, logical structure in your layout, then we see them. We see that the relationship between these items. But any visual relationship that doesn't have any structure behind it, then it is lost. We do, for obvious reason, we do not see graphic. On the web, there is a property. It's called that alternative text. So if there is a informational graphic there, not just stylistic graphic, developers or those web designers, they add some alternative text. They associate some alternative text to that graphic. So screen reader program, they see that text, not the graphic itself. So the information, as I said, are rendered from left to right, top to bottom. So practically, we build a stack of strings in the way how the program renders or the page. We will see that. This is really difficult. It is too abstract to understand that. But when we get to the demonstration, I'm pretty sure everybody will follow me what I'm trying to say that.
Next. All right. Just a couple comments on assistive technologies out there. For example, screen readers, Braille Display. A lot of times the latest and greatest features of, say, HTML or CSS, various web technologies, are more, it takes a little time for the assistive technologies to catch up and actually implement the ability to understand and process these things. So sometimes when you're using the latest, greatest, most exciting thing, it may not be accessible to users with disabilities in some cases. Not to say that our websites or web applications can't be still pretty advanced and pretty great. It doesn't have to be just black text on a white background and nothing to make it look pretty. But some of the very latest things tend to lag a little bit behind a year or two. Assistive technologies, some of them can be very expensive, as Hadi was just describing, where $4,000 is cheap, and the sort of commercial screen reading software is pretty expensive. There are free and open source options out there which do a pretty good job, but I think the industry standard is still the commercial software that costs lots of money. And the process of learning how to use these assistive technologies just adds that much more complexity to the process of navigating the web or navigating a computer for people who have to use these. They need to know all of the keystroke commands, for example, for a screen reader that we don't necessarily need to know if we're just pulling up a web browser and browsing around. So there's a lot of sort of overhead there in terms of knowing how to use these technologies.
Great. Thank you. I need to emphasize that really what we presented about accessibility so far here, it is really we simplifies that it. And then if you are faculty, if you are teaching assistant, or if you are somebody who creates some content and publish it in this academic area, I strongly encourage to take a course at ION, Illinois Online Network. And then really this course, it is about universal design for online learning. And it tells you a lot about different type of disability. And then it is a kind of workshop that helps you to how to create the most accessible and universally designed content. So if you have question, please see my friend there, Scott. Great. Now, Mike just disabled me by muting my laptop.
Oh, it should be back now.
So that's back.
Yeah.
Good. Now, when we get to, again, we discussed about other type of disability. We covered blindness as the last one, but it does not mean that the screen reader accessibility should be always the high priority. For me, it is, but we should not forget hearing impaired. We should not forget those people with upper body disability or cognitive disability. But demonstrating screen reader, it gives you a good idea how people with this, at least blind people, they interact with the web. And then I need, we preferably would like to walk you through the sites that you are familiar with. So we would like to ask anyone who is interested to see his or her favorite site is rendered by a screen reader program. You're welcome, to tell us, and then we walk you through that.
Facebook.
Facebook. I hate you.
For those who didn't hear, he just said hate it.
Facebook is a terrible thing for
Anyone, huh?
Anyone.
I love to solution. I started, right at the beginning, created an account. But once in a while, I go there, and I say, it is still too much work. It is easier now with the iPhone, with the iOS version that they have. But on the web, it's still junk. Anyway, so we go to that's it's good page. And I need also just clarify that when you go and see a blind person and see that the guy has a screen reader program, then he has access to information. I'm sorry, it is not. It's not the case. Screen reader program can talk, can take you or help you to read or interact with the web, but as long as the designer has followed certain best practices. So if those hooks or the necessary hooks or standards are not there, then we won't be able to do it. Now, as a matter of fact, last night I'm helping my wife to create a 1099 MISC form, a fillable form. So she said, yeah, he's big here on the screen, but I couldn't see any bit of it. Because I don't know what they use that, but I couldn't see anything on it. Anyway. So is it fast or? Fast. So I guess after pizza and after lunch and then boring talking, so I don't want that you fall asleep. So. Slower. So it's slower? Slower. I don't want to fall asleep, right? Slower. Is good?
Yeah. Limitations of assistive technology.
I can still turn it down. It's slow.
Oh, that's good.
It's good. It's good.
Alt-Tab. How people with disabilities access the web. Windows M. Alt-Control-F. Go KFG flights deals on airline ticket service game. Go to the website. Edit combo. Go to the website.
Okay. Is it the Facebook?
F. Paste. Enter. Connecting. Frame. About blank. No links. About blank.
Of course, somebody's going to have to log in order to really.
I can do that.
Okay.
Login. Sign up or learn more. @mothers.azari@gmail.com. Welcome to Facebook. Login. Sign up or learn. Visit link. Email or phone. Edit. My password. Edit. Login button. Keep me logged in checkbox. Password. Edit. Password. Email or phone. Edit. Enter. Mothers.blank. Direct. Tab. Password. Password. Edit. Blank.
You thought you will hear the password, huh? Sorry. So everybody was quiet.
Blank.
So.
PC. Tab. Update password button menu.
What?
You were wrong.
It was wrong.
PC. Tab. Update password button. Menu. Update password button. Alt plus U. Close this message button.
Okay.
Enter. Frame. Facebook. Face password. Password. Edit password. Enter. Blank. Shift tab. Request a new one. Link. Tab. Password. Password. Edit.
Is it right, Phil?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Star. Blank. Star. Facebook. Mozilla Firefox. Frame. 3 regions. 1 heading and 19 links. Facebook banner heading left navigation region. Link log out.
Okay.
Navigation region end.
Okay. Now,
Banner end. Remember browser. Because you have login notification often. List of 2 items. Radio button check save browser 1 of 2. Save browser. Radio button not checked don't save. List end. Continue button. Enter connecting. Frame. Continue button. Facebook Mozilla Firefox. Facebook. Frame. Edit pro.
okay.
Tab. Firefox. Facebook Mozilla edit level. Navigation region.
Okay. Now,
Facebook.
one of the anyone is familiar. I think some of you might be familiar with HTML. So anyone is not. So if I want to mention then how much we can talk about HTML. Yeah.
So
Most of us probably know some.
No, some. Okay. You know, the underlying language for the web is HTML, hyper markup.
hypertext markup language.
Hypertext. I haven't used that the full phrase for a long time. There are some components in it. They really designed it very well many years ago, and then over time they added more component to it. One of those components was headings. So heading, we have heading 1, heading 2, heading up to heading 6, and these headings supposed to give us a kind of help us to build structure in our page. So I would like to. One of the functions that Screen Reader does, it helps me to identify the headings on this page. I'm going to ask my Screen Reader to show me the headings. Yeah.
Heading list dialog. Headings list view. Facebook 1. Favorites 4. Friends 4. Apps 4. Pages 4.
Yeah.
Groups 4. Trending 6. Sponsored 6.
Okay.
Newsfeed 2.
What, are they just randomly assigning weights?
I mean, the number that you see, it tells you the heading level. So let's start with heading 1.
Facebook 1.
It's good.
Favorites 4.
But, you know, if you are familiar, I mean, those of you who are familiar with HTML, you know that you can never move from heading 1 to heading 4. The next level should be heading 2. But there is no heading 2 between 1 and 4. And then here,
Friends 4. Apps 4. Groups 4. Trending 6.
trend 6. So when you see this random use of heading, so you easily can conclude that the developer has used this heading just for to get some stylistic effect because of font size, color, or whatever attributes they have attached to those headings. So this might give me some idea of what is on the page, but I cannot rely on it because I see that they are using randomly. Does it make sense so far? Yeah. That is how we see that. We check the headings and then see that if the headings represent the major component or minor components of that page. So you usually, I mean, as a sighted person, you look at the page and you see how the page is, you see the layout of the page, and then easily can focus on the main content area. But for us, we have to, when there is no heading structure or no reliable heading structure, practically we have to see from top to bottom.
Escape.
So
Banner. Heading level 1 link Facebook.
I am going to do a copy here.
6330.
Okay. I'm going to give you a shocking picture how a screen reader see that page. Ready?
Facebook. Banner. Facebook. Navigation read 0 requests.
Can you imagine we see in that way?
0 messages, 0 notifications.
As I said, a stack of string on top of each other. And when the structure are not associated with it, so practically we have to read from top to bottom to find out.
Find threads.
When you go from one page to another page, since there is no well-defined structure, practically you have to scan the page from top to bottom to see that what has changed. But if you had the headings, if a proper heading, you could target that area. Well, I'm going to show it here. For example, if I want to go to, I'm calling the heading list again.
Favorites 4, Friends 4, Apps 4 pages, Groups 4, Trending 6, Sponsored 6, Newsfeed 2.
For example, if I want to go to news feed, I just click on that, and my focus is moved right there.
Enter.
You don't see that my focus is that, but it is.
Heading level 2 Newsfeed.
You heard that. It is my focus is there, and I can read the content from that section down.
List of 1 items. Sort button menu collapsed.
Okay.
List end. Sort button menu collapsed.
It's a sort button menu collapse. Whatever it means, it does not make sense to you.
Enter. Main region. Sort read only. Sort button menu.
Over here.
Okay.
Menu. Top stories. Most recent. Top story. Enter. Leaving menus. Sort button menu.
Okay. This menu was accessible, but they have other menus that are not accessible. So. I can tell you, it is a mess. You know, you go to menu, you practically do not see the sub-menus. But this specific menu for the sort options, it was accessible. So my screen reader could see the options.
List link manage. Blank. Heading level 5 link manages are in a million. People you may know.
If I want to see...
2014 security software, Norton Store, Mozilla Firefox escape.
I'm sorry.
Norton 2014 security software, Norton Store.
Where did you go?
Norton 2014 Norton 2014 escape.
Where did you go?
Alt tab, untitled notepad, untitled alt tab, Norton 24 alt tab, how people with disabilities alt tab,
Opened up a
PowerPoint
new
slideshow, how
page.
people with disabilities access to web 2014 zip alt tab, untitled notepad, alt tab, Norton 2014 security software.
I have no idea where it came from.
Facebook, Mozilla Firefox.
Okay. Created
Click an
the...
ad.
Oh, it was an
Click
ad.
an ad in Facebook and
Okay.
it's no tab.
So, and you know, I am an expert user, but for those people, they might not have no idea how it happens, and they do not know that. A lot of them, they do not know how they use keyboard to switch from one browser tab to another. So they just see what page they have, and then if something opens on top of that without announcing to the advance notice, so they are confused. They are lost. Practically, you know, it was here, right? It was here, right? Even the next tab, but if I was not, you know, an advanced user, I probably couldn't easily identify that.
Control W, Facebook,
So I'll close that junk.
You actually have that happen a lot. For example, let's say ads trying to hijack the screen reader. This is the same way, like, for example, congratulations, you won $1 million, or you won a free Apple iPod. Do you have that happen with screen readers as well? Like where it tries to hijack the focus of the screen reader?
Oh yeah. They have it. Yeah, they have it. I want to say which pages. Sometimes you go to those sponsored pages. Then, you know, the advertisement, you know, they refresh us. And while it is there, when it is not moving, okay, you read the content. You are not distracted. But as soon as the content changes, so your screen reader program sees that, oh, the content has changed. So it refreshes your view. So your focus goes again to the top of the screen. And then okay, you arrow down, and then you find your location, and by the time you start reading, the page refreshes again. So, screen reader have also. I want to show you a good feature of the web.
Alt tab, untitled notepad, alt tab, how people with disabilities, alt tab, PowerPoint slide, alt tab, Facebook, Mozilla Firefox, alt tab, untitled notepad,
Okay.
untitled notepad, account setting, search banner end, Hadi Rangin, edit profile, apps navigation, read favorites, list of 7 items.
Okay, here was is that I'm trying to, as I said, this is the screen reader view that I copied for you, right? here, the beauty of the screen reader or beauty of the web is that when you group the relevant items together using ordered list or unordered list or definition list, screen reader read the source code. So they are aware of that. And then, so they give you that information.
List of 7 items.
Can you see that line? List of 7 information. So you practically, when I come to that list, ahead of time, I know that I am dealing with a list with 7 items in it. And if I am not interested, so there is another command that I can bypass this list altogether. But if you do not use the list, and then instead you force the screen or to group this element in a non-logical way, then even they are attached to it together, I will not see them. I will see them as a separate items. So one practice is, one good coding practice is that to group the relevant item using list or a kind of list, the list that you want. So because that way user knows first this element, they belong to each other, they are grouped together, and then while navigation, they can easily bypass it if they don't need it. Or they can just find it. I can show it to you.
Facebook, Mozilla Firefox. Facebook, Mozilla Firefox.
If
so
I, for,
site.norton.com, no matter what you do. About Facebook ads button.
Here, for example, I can.
Virtual list, block quotes list, buttons list, chat boxes list, combo boxes list.
I can ask my screen reader to list all these different type of elements.
Divisions list, edit boxes list, form fields list, frames list, graphics list.
For example, graphics list. I can say how many graphics are on this page.
Enter. Select the graphic dialog. List 1, list 2, tab, S photo. Hadi Rangin. GMC, Hadi Rangin. D.
Yeah, that's it. So the people who uploaded the page, I don't know which one is the uploaded pages, uploaded graphic, or which one is is from Facebook. But a good practice is that when you are uploading a graphic, then you need to add an alternative text to it to convey the purpose of that image there. If say that, oh, this is, for example, you upload a, for example, table, it's this is a table, that might not tell very much. This is a table, but you don't see the purpose. Or I see that, very picture about historical places. This is, for example, that object. But there is a lot of information in that object that can be conveyed to the audience, and that message is needed. Does it make sense? Mike, do you want to?
Sure. Yeah,
elaborate more on it?
And for anybody who's doing content editing or content creation for websites, which even if you're not a web developer, I mean, most people do that at some point. The really important thing about putting up some sort of alternative text, if you don't put anything, it will typically, the screen reader will read the path to the image. So it'll actually read on the web server what the path to the image is, and then the image file name, which I guess tells you something, but usually isn't very helpful. So when you provide alternative text, the idea is you provide some concise, short, preferably a sentence, unless it's a very complex image, just describing the main purpose and the main content of the image that somebody, if you were just telling somebody what you're seeing, what you would tell them, in as clear and concise and brief a way as possible.
That's just great.
Can you show us a site that you like, Hadi?
Escape.
I mean, let us try it. Google is one of those products that I do, I mean,
Control T.
they have their own way of accessibility. They say that if you want to use our product, you have to use Chromebox. But it is, I usually, in my communication with them, discussion with them, I say that it is like that as if you want to go from here to maybe Savoy, and then a part of the road is that you have to take the boat. So, Chromevox is something that works only in the browser, but we need screen reader program to interact with the computer as well. Here, for example, I need to see, for example, my computer, right? I need my screen reader to access my PowerPoint, and then other programs that I have. I don't use web only. So what they say that is they use Chromevox to access Google products, which most of them are on the web. So, but they works hard.
Go to the website. Enter connecting. Frame new tab. Google links link edit.
Okay.
Enter.
Let me find. I mean, that was what I was looking last night. 1099 MISC.
MISC.
Fillable 4.
4. Enter Google. Link screen reader users. Click here to turn off Google Instant.
Okay. First, this is a link that you don't see that. You see that Google Instant, that it automatically finds other.
Automatically searches and then shows the results as you type.
As you type. So this is very confusing because while you are typing, the content changes, and as soon as the content changes, the screen reader catches that. It said, "Oh, the content changes," so it refreshes your page. So you practically are taken away from your editing section, and then you type in the air because at that time a lot of activities are happening on the screen. So, but fortunately, they give you an option to turn off that feature. So what I want to explain, use this question to explain the concept, is the idea of, we call that ARIA landmark. Mike is an expert. Mike, why you don't talk about 1 minute about ARIA landmark?
ARIA is an acronym. It stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications, and it's essentially a set of roles that you can apply to elements in your website, to tags, to sort of give semantic information about the page, about areas of the page, or about widgets that are on the page that you can interact with. So ARIA landmark roles give you a way of blocking out regions on a page and saying what the region is. There's banner, which is sort of the header of the page. There's one called content info, which is the footer. There's the main content area that is where all of the real content of the page is. And then there are sort of complementary regions, navigation region, and search region. And most pages can be blocked out in that way. And you essentially just assign these different roles to different areas of the page, and a screen reader user can very quickly get to the portion of the page they're interested in. If they want to get immediately to the navigation menu, they can pull up the list of ARIA landmarks and go immediately to the navigation menu. If they want to get to the main content, with just a couple button presses, they can get right to the main content of the page. It provides really good structure to the page to make it very simple to locate where you want to go.
Practically, you define logical blocks for your page. When you, for example, look at as a website, a random website, you easily can identify that, for example, upper section is the banner section, on the left side is the navigation, and the main content area, or it's a footer. So these information are laid out visually. And then, as you saw, that the view that we have as a screen reader user, it is just a stack of strings. So by using the ARIA landmark, as I said, you practically provide some semantic to each section. That is the beauty of that, and it is so helpful. So if I want to show you the list of the logical blocks here on this page.
Document regions dialog, regions preview, navigation.
For example, this is a navigation section.
Main, navigation.
Mike, can you say what navigation section is? Tell them.
On this page?
I can tell you here.
Enter. Navigation read web.
I'm guessing it's that top right
Yeah.
section.
I don't know,
Yeah,
it's right,
sign in
right,
and
left, yeah.
apps.
Web.
Which is a web,
Link shopping.
link shopping,
Link images.
images, that area.
Right, it's not visible right now, but if you click on,
It's right under the bar,
Is it?
web shopping.
oh, it's this one. Okay, I thought it was the thing you can expand. Yeah, there it is.
That is the
navigation.
section.
Document region
So-
title. Main.
Then this is the main area where the search result is.
Content information.
Content information is the footer.
Main. Navigation. Main.
And when I go to main,
Enter. Main region. Heading level 2 search results.
and then it tells me the search result.
List of 10 items.
And then at the same time, they have also the list of the result as a heading.
Heading list dialog. Headings list view. Free available 1099 missed forms. Free available 10. Free available search results 2. Free available forms general FAQs internal revenue service 3. Free available 1099 missed.
So it doesn't matter how I approach this page, I can easily get to each result. And if I see that the title of each result is relevant,
Fillable 2012 form 1099 missed internal revenue service PD.
I can
Filler
click on it.
Enter.
So simple. So this is, if somebody asks me what is the major accessibility problem on the web, I would say navigation. Navigation is the most difficult problem that we face. So any page that can provide a good navigation mechanism, that is good. We like it. So I need also to mention that the many websites on the campus, including the public engagement portal that somebody, one of my friends is working on it. And then thanks also to George who supported that idea. They started, I think, 6 years ago.
Something like that, yeah. 5 or 6.
Yeah.
5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, and they came with zero accessibility knowledge. About believe me, zero. I mean, I could sometimes laugh, but how much they knew that.
But that actually
Yeah.
raises an interesting issue because I think it's easy to think of it as something that you would add on later, or it's just like, we have to think about this issue.
A burden.
A burden, yes. When in fact it needs to be built in from the start, and I think that's been part of the learning for us.
Very.
It's just realizing, getting to a place where we can think, oh yeah,
Very
we have to do this.
Very good point. And then again, as I said, I am public engagement portal. I am pretty sure most of you are familiar with that page. It is also one of the most accessible application on this campus. And then, as I said, people who, like Mike, who started there 6 years ago with zero knowledge, and he is really one of my top resources for advanced. when I get really in trouble, something I cannot find it, or I need the more detailed question. He's there. I mean, this talk is, as I said, is one of those not high-end talk about accessibility, but we have presented at many places, very detailed. And then he has been involved even with sometimes we are working with vendors, and I'm lost, and then I ask him for help, and I'm very pleased that he can offer some advice. So I would like to highlight what George.
Hadi, it's after 1 o'clock. We might need to.
One point, yeah.
Yeah,
One
okay.
point. It is the best thing for accessibility is when you design something. It is the best time that you think about accessibility. Any time after that, it will be expensive, it will be time-consuming, and it will be wishy-washy. But once, if you consider like public engagement portal, or consider accessibility at the design phase, then everything is accessible out of box. So they told me I should stay quiet. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much. We stay here, Mike and I mean, Mike can stay. I need to eat. Answer your question, and I can enjoy the pizza.
Yeah.
Thank you again for coming.